Hello everyone and welcome to the Checkup Week webinar guide to online exams. Tonight we have, I'm just checking who we have. Belinda Flannery is the co-host today. Belinda works for our counselling service. We have Jeannie Heath, who works in the exams and e-assessment team, and myself, I'm the manager of exams and e-assessment. So we'll just wait for people to arrive. Wait a couple of minutes. Hope everyone's staying warm tonight. I certainly am.
I'm just going to bring my voice in. So I'm Belinda. So I am trying to stay warm. It is very cold here in Armidale tonight.
So Belinda, I'm just checking that you can see my screen share.
I can, yes.
Excellent. That's good. And I will do this thing.
Yep, that looks lovely.
Right. Look, excellent. We've got a few people.
We do. The numbers are coming up. We have 15.
Lovely. It's good to see everyone. So say hi. And someone has already said hi. That's nice. Hi, Leandro. Hi, Finn and Robert. Sorry, I'm screen sharing while I'm looking at the chat. So I'd invite you to add stuff in the chat if you wanted to communicate with us. I don't think anyone can speak, but I think Connor, who's our moderator, can certainly allow people to speak if they'd like to. I'm pretty sure that might be a thing, Connor. But tonight it's just an informal chat, really. We have things we want to tell you. You may have things you want to tell us or ask us. So I'll go first. I'll talk about online exams and how they work and why we have them. Then we'll break to answer some of the questions in the chat or the Q&A. And then Belinda will talk from her perspective about exams, exam preparation, and all things exam-y. So first of all, when I get my computer to work, I'd like to acknowledge the land of the Anawan people that I speak from tonight, and to recognise elders, past, present, and emerging. So online supervised exams at UNE. You may have heard about them, you may have had some before, you may have never heard of the thing and you're thinking, what is this thing you speak of? So in the next short while, I'll talk about why are exams even held? Why are they held this way at UNE? How does it work? Who's going to be supervising? What to expect? How to prepare? And how to get help if you need it. So firstly, why do exams even exist, right? Aren't they just a way to torture people? So we at UNE recognise that different forms of assessment suit different people. I happen to enjoy exams, which is a bit strange, I know. Other people prefer assignments. But knowing why exams exist and what they are attempting to achieve can give people some really good insight on why they're managed that way. Like, why the hell is the supervisor making me, you know, show them my floor, for instance, through the webcam? And there are only ever two reasons why anyone needs to hold an exam, and that is to have some control of identity management and verification. So the person who is enrolled is the one doing the work, and the one doing the work is the one getting the degree. The other is a proactive control of exam conditions. So when we talk about an assessment is designed within a context, and often it's quite valid to restrict access to materials or information. Other times it's quite okay to have an open book exam. But when those 2 points are required in an assessment, then we need to hold it with an exam with supervision and control of the student's environment. Often this kind of assessment is required by accrediting bodies, professional bodies like the Legal Practitioners Admissions Board, or the equivalent health and other professional organisations like pharmacy, psychology, medicine, etc. So you'll find that some disciplines have quite a number of exams, whereas others have none. Only about 25% of units at UNE have exams. So this is my perspective on exams in general until recently, that we haven't really seen a change from the test taker's perspective for quite a long time. They involved, everyone has to be there at this time, or else you have to travel to the venue, you have to be there when we say. Everyone crams into the hall, sweats it out, and then leaves. But we know that does not work for our cohort of students. We know that this is the reality for our students. Our students are generally mid-30s, female generally, have family commitments, have work commitments, have community commitments. And we know that actually we need to fit in with you. When life hits the fan, study is sometimes the first thing to go, because you can't drop family, community and work commitments. So we know that to be a successful partner in your education, we need to fit in with you. And that includes exams. And so here's a picture of how we are now providing exams where you can choose your start time. Most of our exams are available for a 24-hour period. The duration is still the same. So once you start, you still have the standard, 2 hours and 15 minutes, etc. But you can choose when you would like to start. And just to make an extreme example here, here's a picture, a screenshot of me attempting to book a nursing exam that's being held now, and the options I have to book that at 1 a.m. tonight, or tomorrow morning. So you can sit your exam at 1 a.m. if you're a shift worker and that works for you, or you just are a night person. You can sit it at 10 o'clock in the morning after you roll out of bed, after you've got the kids to school, around work shifts, etc. So this is why we hold exams online. We also want to provide the flexibility where you can sit your exam in your chosen space. This can be at home, at work, at your friends, at your mum's, book a room at the local library, whatever you need to do. It just needs to be a private, quiet and well-lit space where you have access to enough internet and a computer with a webcam, with audio, etc. You can't really do your exam in a couch or under the covers in your bed, etc. You do need to be at a desk just to make it easier for the supervisor to keep control of your environment, remembering that's one of the key aspects of an exam. Here are some very recent stats from a survey that we run at the end of every exam period since we've had online exams since 2017. And this is what students have told us. These are the key aspects of, or differences with online exams compared to paper, old style exams. And we asked students for these aspects, please tell us if they impacted on your exam performance. And the figures in the column on the right are the number of students who told us that these aspects had a really positive impact on their exam performance. And we're really pleased to see choosing your preferred start time. 82% of students said that really helped them. 73% said not having to travel before their exam to, old style exam centre, drive 100 kilometres or more to get to the venue. Being in your own space, 64%. And there's research that suggests that people's recall of information is better in the environment where they learned it. So if you're sitting your exam at the desk where you learned that information, then, that might help. Not being around other people in the exam centre, so the sniffing and the tapping and the wriggling and all of that stuff, the paper shuffling, can be quite off-putting for a lot of people. You don't have to deal with that when you're sitting your exam in your own space. The other key reason, I mentioned that we've been holding exams online since 2017 because we are an online university and we could see the benefits of online exams well before COVID hit, when a lot of other universities needed to start holding their exams online because they could no longer hold exams at a desk in a church hall. But we have been at this for a long time now. And the reasons include that when you use a paper-based exam, you're stuck with text mostly, and really not authentic question types. When we move to online, and this is one of the things we get really excited by, the potential, as well as to be able to offer amazing flexibility to our students and to ourselves, is that instead of a paper exam where, you know, you may or may not have big heavy textbooks that you've got to lug around that cost a fortune, here's a screenshot of an exam a law exam, where students are permitted to they're able to access the AustLII database, which is an Australian legislation database that real lawyers do when they're going about their business. So in most of our law exams, Jeannie, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but in a lot of our law exams, students are permitted access to AustLII, which is a real life professionally relevant resource that you can use during your exam. Here is an exam question where students can use the professional Chem Sketch tool that chemistry professionals use in industry. Here is an example of an interactive medicine exam where you're presented with information. It's a bit like choose your own adventure, and you can seek further information, you can look at documents, and you can make decisions. And then the path that your questions take after that point rely on the answers that you provide. So it's iterative. Here's an example of a psychology exam question where instead of reading a text-based question and then responding to that, a student could watch a video of a client's first counselling session, and then the question might ask them to comment on the interview methods used by the therapist. And here is some 3D technology where we have a human skull that's been scanned. This is a still screenshot, but using this technology, you can spin the skull around, you can use measuring tools. You can do all of the things that you could have done in the field with a real skull in your hand. So you might be studying anthropology, for instance, and you might one day find this in your exams. So who will be supervising me? A lot of people have weird ideas about who the supervisors are. They are real people, and here's a picture of some of them. We've been working with ProctorU since 2017. We've done a number of market scans and tender processes. In that time, we found them to be a global sector leader. They currently have more than 1,000 higher education institutions working with them globally. They hold about 2.5 million exams per year. They are on all the time. They have lots of supervisors who are fully trained. They do about 3 months training before they ever get to supervise an exam. They have a manager in the room with them. They never work from home. It's not like some creepy guy in his mum's basement with a tinfoil hat on watching you through the webcam. It's nothing like that at all. It's a professional, market leader that we have gone to and said, will you please act as our agents? They act on our behalf and they follow our instructions and all of the exam rules we set. Any issues at all, they refer to us and we get to decide how to deal with them. If they think someone's been naughty in an exam, they will record it. They will attempt to stop any aberrant behaviour in real time. They will write up a report and they will provide it to us as an incident report, and then we decide what to do with it. So one example that we had was a student who said, I can't possibly do exams online. I will tell my husband not to come in the room. He will still come in the room and I'll get an automatic fail. And that's not true. What would happen in that situation is hubby might come in the room, ProctorU would log a report to say someone came in the room, they left 30 seconds later after they got screamed at. We would review the evidence, have a little chuckle and put it aside, and that would be the end of that. We decide whether we escalate cases for investigation under UNE academic misconduct procedures. And if we do, then it's UNE deciding on how they might proceed. All records remain the property of UNE, and ProctorU, we have assessed them quite a few times over the years. Our privacy officer has assessed them, our cyber team have assessed them, and they have ticked those boxes to say that ProctorU meet all global and Australian and UNE privacy requirements, and they meet global best practice for cybersecurity. And frankly, otherwise we wouldn't be using them. So how does it work? So that's you in the middle, sitting at the desk doing your exam. ProctorU is the exam supervisor. They're just, you know, in the cloud, I suppose. They're online. They're not in the room with you. They're online watching you through the webcam. So they have vision of you, and you would be required to run a browser extension that allows them to view your screen and turns off blacklisted software. So it'd turn off your Skype and your instant messaging and any web pages that weren't permitted. And it would allow the supervisor to see your screen and record your screen in the same way that if you rang our IT help desk and you were in Bega and said to IT help desk, hey, I've got an issue, they would say, please run TeamViewer for me so I can see your screen and I can control your mouse. It requires consent from you in all cases to do that. And that's the kind of technology that they use to be able to view your screen, lock down blacklisted functions so that, you know, you don't have access to unpermitted resources, and see you through the webcam. The exam lives in our learning management system, either Moodle or Mobius for maths. And it's, you know, essentially on UNE property. It's in our learning management system. It's in your unit site. So you would log into Moodle, go to your unit site, you'd find the exam, and then ProctorU would unlock it for you once they were satisfied that you were sitting your exam under exam conditions. So they would ask you to show your ID to the camera. They would ask you to use your webcam to pan the room to show them all four walls, the floor, the desk, the keyboard, and the edges of your screen. Just to make sure, again, referring back to why do we even have exams, to make sure that we know what you've got access to and that it's you. And just because we are very aware of a lot of misinformation, and you probably are too. Since 2020, there has been a lot of misinformation, conspiracy theories, myths, and generally just really unhelpful misinformation. So the things that we have heard from students, which we know are not true, they hack your computer, they collect your personal information and sell it. We've had students tell us that ProctorU collect genetic information, gender preference, citizenship status, and sell it. And we are really beat as to how they would even collect that information, but there you go. That they take photos of students' breasts and sell them online. I think that myth arose at UNE. There's just no business model in that. They don't do that. They will actually ask you to put a shirt on if they think that you are revealing a bit too much. We've heard students say that you can't move your eyes, or the AI will think you're cheating, that you can't cry because it will think you're cheating, that you'll get an automatic fail, that somehow this AI stuff is in control of our exams and it marks it for it as well. That it's not a legitimate country, that it's registered to an empty warehouse in Alabama. That one gets a lot of airtime. Our Pro-Vice Chancellor has been to visit ProctorU in the US, and they assured me they were real. You can lose your work and lose time and then have to take a fail. That's not true, and that there's no one to help you if you have problems. And we'll talk about how much help there is, but all of these things are wrong. And we encourage you to avoid the crazy and patently incorrect things that fly around online. I think the world is currently steeped in misinformation around a couple of topics, and one of those hot topics since 2020 was online exams and online learning. We know it's wrong. We wouldn't be using them if any of these claims were real. In reality, when you create a profile in ProctorU, they will know your institution name, your email address, which will default to your UNE email address, your first and last name, a phone number that they can ring if you're doing an exam and you need help and they can't communicate via the exam session with you, your time zone, not your address, but your time zone, so that all of the dates and times can be displayed in your time zone, so you don't have to convert them, and a photo so that they can match that with your photo ID on the day. All of this information is already on record with UNE. If you have an ID card, we've got it all. You've already given it to us. And it's also exactly the same as would be provided for a face-to-face paper-based exam. They do take an image of your ID card. That's for us, because if we have any questions, we will review the footage and look at your ID card as if, we had been in the room and asked you to show your ID card on the day. After 7 days, that is deleted, permanently deleted, because it contains address information usually, and they don't want to keep that, and we don't want them to keep it. All logs and recordings of exams remain the property of UNE. And ProctorU, if you haven't used your ProctorU account for 12 months, they will put that information into what they call a deep freeze. And then a further 12 months of inactivity means that they will permanently delete that. If at any time before then you would like your information to be deleted, you can certainly ask us to do that. That's fine. We will check first to make sure that there's not a naughty reason for you to want that to be deleted, and then we will arrange for that information to be deleted. ProctorU will also contact us very occasionally and say, hey, this person might have forgotten that their camera was on and they probably don't want footage of them wearing a towel or something. So they will approach us and ask us to if they can delete a video. So you can see that between us, we try to take extremely good care of people's privacy. At the UNE end, there are only 9 people who have access to the recordings and the screen recordings and the session logs. And that is my team, the exams and e-assessment team. The only time the information is ever sent to anyone else is where there may be an escalated academic misconduct case where the session recordings are used as evidence. So what do I need to do? What do you need to do? The most important thing is to do what we call the try it out exam. And I'll talk about that. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But the try it out exam is a dress rehearsal for a real exam that you can do now. You can do it in the next few days to check, hey, what is this thing you speak of? What buttons do I push? Will my computer even do the thing? What do I have to do in my own space to make it happen? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And we do that so that we offer that service so that you can have an opportunity to check for tech issues. So if you did your try it out exam this week and your exam is in September, October, you have heaps of time to resolve any tech issues that you might find. If you find that they're unresolvable, you can contact us and seek advice on what other alternatives might be available. You can also work out how to access your exam and what buttons you push, like not after your exam should have started 10 minutes ago, because we know that's not the kind of optimal situation that you want to be in. And the supervisor will guide you on how to ensure exam conditions in your own space. So what do you need to provide? You need to provide a webcam, a computer running currently supported Windows or Mac, so no Linux, no mobile devices or virtual machines, Chrome browser. You need to have a computer that you have admin rights to run the browser extension or install the browser extension. We know that government and banking firewalls can block the software. You need to have a reasonable and stable internet connection, a quiet and private well-lit room to book your exam time in beforehand. and leave a bit of time leeway before and after your exam so that if any delays happen, you're not going to stress about, needing to go and pick the kids up from daycare when you've still got half an hour to go on your exam. So I will run through now a demo of booking my exam, and where will I find information? So from the homepage, we can say current students, my course exams, and you can see in here we have lots of stuff about exams, lots of stuff about everything else too. But there's quite a few resources in there. If you go to the exams page, you'll see FAQs and further information about exams. The best site though is in Moodle. You can do a search in Moodle if you don't already have a unit site on your dashboard. And for me, I'm going to just do a search for online exam. And here we go, online supervised exam information. So you, as a student, will be able to get access to that. It might ask you to self-enroll. You'll just need to click a button to say, please self-enroll me. In here, we have all of the stuff. And Jeannie, tell me where I need to be. So if you're getting started, it talks about an online supervised exam is just a Moodle quiz, but you're under supervision. What equipment do I need? How do I prepare my own exam space, etc. So all of that is in that, our sort of generic Moodle site in under our online supervised exam information. When your unit has an exam, you will already for this trimester be able to find information in your unit. So if we go to Psych 102, the welcome page, for instance, we can scroll down, and down here are what we call tiles, and there will be an online supervised exam information tile. And when you go there, again, a lot of the information we've got in our other site is repeated, but what else is in here is very shortly when we release the exam timetable tomorrow or the next day, in the next week or so, you will see in here the availability window that we talked about, the 24-hour window, when that is, and then what to do next. So if you don't have an account with ProctorU, all you need to do is click on this button. This is a single sign-on functionality. It is like a cybersecurity, I suppose, functionality where our secure systems take your session to ProctorU's secure sessions. And that is the very best way to keep your account safe and make it much easier for you to keep your profile safe as well. So you click there. If you don't already have a profile, then it will help you create one. If you already have a profile, it will help you log in. And when you've logged in, you will be, this looks familiar, doesn't it? So I'm logged in as a student in ProctorU. It's really basic. There's only 3 buttons. Have questions, it can take you to a FAQ, an information resource page. Test your equipment is a basic speed test. It's not the try it out exam. Schedule new session is what you need to do. And then just making sure that you've got the right institution. Select the term, so here for trimester 2, and then very shortly all of the exams will appear, but right now we only have the try it out exam. So I say, okay, I want the try it out exam. Show me when I can have it. Down here, it will list the exam window. So this exam window is open. It's open all the time because it's the try it out exam. And I want to do it on the 19th, and I want to do it at 8:30 in the evening. I click on the submit my, preferred date and time. It has to be within the window, and there I can see the sessions that are closest to my preferred date and time. That doesn't suit me. I'll say I want it at 9:30 actually. Submit. It'll find another session. Here we go. Yeah, 10:50 works for me. I'll select that. I have to go through the shopping cart. process order. It says 0 fee there for the Try It Out exam. If you book it earlier than 3 days notice, there's a small premium scheduling fee. So book it in with more than 3 days notice. For your other real exams, there's no fee. So process order, and here we go. Now I go back to my sessions and I've got a countdown. I'll have an email sent to me with the details. I can put it in my calendar. I'll get a reminder sent 24 hours before my exam, and both of those emails will have links so I can reschedule my exam if I want to. I can check my exam rules. And here we go here. For me, because I have a study access plan, but I'm using myself as a test dummy. I've said I can have an assistance animal and I'm going to wear a hat. Here are the permitted resources. And if I go back here, when this countdown counts down, it'll turn into a start your exam or launch your exam button. And I can always reschedule or cancel. So I'll be very quick now. Very shortly, we will be sending you, if you have exams, we'll be sending you an email to your UNE account with some details. And just to reiterate that it is a myth that there is no help. The exams team are available via this direct number between usually 8 and 6 every day, but definitely during the exam period between 8 AM and 6 PM. And we are available until 1 AM for ProctorU to make contact with us should any student sitting exams up until that time have any issues. The kind of help that we routinely provide to students includes where they're having trouble navigating the startup process, where you have to load the browser extension. If you need help scheduling or rescheduling, any questions about permitted materials we can help with, if there are any issues accessing the exam itself, and if on the off chance that you do lose time, say your Windows update decides to kick in halfway through your exam and you lose a bit of time, you lose 5 or 10 minutes with that going on, you can make contact with us or ask the exam supervisor to make contact with us. And we have a real-time chat channel with them where they make contact with us, and we can actually, exams team have the access to be able to provide additional time to your exam even while you're in it, or any other issue that occurs, you can always make contact. So I suppose our slogan is real help in real time, and all you have to do is ask. And so I'll take any questions if we have some. So if Jeannie or Belinda want to jump in at any point too, can you use more than one screen? No. So get a large screen if you are planning to purchase one. But currently 2 screens are not permitted. The software limits your computer to 1 screen, 1 keyboard, 1 mouse, and that's for security reasons. And I can see Lauren has answered that. Thanks, Lauren. Yes, so you can select the time of your exam, the date we decide, because that's based on a lot of things. We'll release the exam timetable tomorrow, and Lauren's already answered that. That's great. If you cannot attend your exam on the scheduled date, give us a ring, because we can still offer quite a bit of flexibility as required. Jeannie has answered this one. Do you need an ID card? Yes, you need a government issued photo ID or a UNE ID card. And Anita, your question, the practice exam is through ProctorU and the real exam is through ProctorU. The exams exist in Moodle, both of them, but you cannot get into that exam unless you are under ProctorU's exam supervision, and then ProctorU will let you into that exam. Hopefully that makes sense. That's how we lock them down, because otherwise, people would just go in and or ask someone else to go in and do it for them without that ID verification and that control of the resources that students have access to. And Mako, I will go through again how we access your exam to book it. The instructions will be in the email that you get, or you can again ring us. So say you're enrolled in Psych 102. Again, here's the search function. You might not already be at it. You just put in your unit code. I've got lots to look at. You won't. When I find, sorry, here we go, Psych 102. So this is what we call the landing page. We scroll down to look at all the different tiles which have topics, or there's the assessments tile there. That's a really handy one to look at, unit information. This one here, it will always have the same picture. Regardless of the unit, you would click on online supervised exam information. You would use this green button in that tile to click on it to either help you create your ProctorU profile if you don't already have one, or assist you with login. So it will take you your browsing session through to ProctorU. And then when you get in there, you will land on this view of the world. And you will say schedule new session. You would select a term, and for Psych 102, it's a trimester 2 exam. And then you would select the unit. At the moment, the only exam that we've made available for booking is the Try It Out exam, but by the end of next week, probably all of them will be in this list for you to choose. We'll also send you an email when your particular unit's exam is bookable, and encouraging you to book. So I'm happy to have anyone else speak, not be my voice. Welcome, Belinda.
Thanks, Kylie. I'm just going to fiddle around here now and try and get my share screen going as well.
No worries. Hopefully that has answered people's questions. If not, chuck something in the chat and we can answer it.
Kylie, can you just let me know if you can see that?
I can.
Excellent. Okay. That was very informative. Thank you so much, Kylie. And I hope that what I now cover can link back to that for you guys out there listening to the webinar. What I'm about to do is come in from the psychological perspective of exams. Being a student counsellor and working with the Counselling and Psychological Services, which we call CAPS for short, we do a lot of this work with students, as you can imagine. We do this work in a one-on-one setting where students may come to our service and book in an appointment time, where they can do that in a private and confidential manner to talk about any concerns they may have around exams. We also do them in group settings where we may present webinars through the Academic Skills Office, for example. In the colleges, we present these types of workshops where we just get to talk about the things that we might be concerned about when we come to exams. And typically it's the word stress. So what we're going to be covering this evening and following from Kylie's presentation is a more general look at stress and what stress is, and then how it can be linked to exam stress as a more specific type of stressor. Then we're going to look at it the way we think about our exams, coming from some maybe maladaptive thought processes that do occur because we're all humans, and I've had these thoughts myself, to more challenging those maladaptive thinking processes into more adaptive ways to think about our exams. Looking at what exams actually mean for you, the student. And I think that that's quite a nice way to reflect back to the individual and to find out what it is that you think the exam means for you, not so much about what may be expected in regards to your performance in the exam, but to look at it from your own perspective. obviously to be looking at online exams and coming from a positive approach there and looking at the things that we actually are gaining from an online exam versus the more face-to-face paper exams. And I know that Kylie touched on as well, so that link will be there. And then we'll be looking at some strategies to support the exam experience. So the overarching goal really for this section is to just increase awareness around the exam concerns that students can have, but more importantly to increase the belief that you actually can take control of these concerns in order to minimise the amount of stress that you may experience when it comes to exams. Sometimes even the word exam can be triggering for us, or the word assessment. And then also the word online exam can be also triggering. So the idea here is that we want you to be in the driver's seat and to feel that you're taking complete ownership of your student experience. Sometimes we work with students and they're like, hey, I'm not even in the car at the moment. And sometimes that's the work that we do with students to get them in the car and to get them in the driver's seat, to start taking control of what this experience is for you and to get out of it what you are looking for, to therefore increase the meaning that you're going to gain from your experience as a student at UNE. So this may be things that you probably already know of, but I thought I would just lay down a little bit of a foundation to find out what exactly is stress. And the stress response is really equals our survival. So back in the day when we were living in caves, we needed to act in a way where we didn't have our prefrontal cortex wasn't highly evolved at that stage. So we were really operating on our primal brain and that sense of that fight, flight, freeze response that will kick in order to keep us alive. So it would either empower us to set off a lot of physiological responses that would allow us to fight for our lives or to run for our life. So if anything, we can look at stress as being an adaptive way in which we've allowed to survive and then continue to evolve. So it is a very normal response. And as we're all humans, I suspect that we've all probably felt stress from time to time. And that stress would obviously differ in its severity, given the circumstances that you're in at the moment. So this is called the Yerkes-Dodson curve. And I love this. I've used this myself as a student, and I share this a lot with the students I work with, because sometimes when we think of stress, we see it as a negative thing. However, there can be good stress. And as the curve shows here, we have stress down on our x-axis and then performance up on our y. So as we can see, as stress is increasing, going from low to high, our performance is actually going up as well to optimal performance, where we have stress halfway. So it's not low stress, we actually have medium stress in order to perform. So it fuels our planning and action, and it fuels our performance and our capabilities. That's our optimal stress level. However, when it starts to continue increasing our stress levels into the more medium to high, our performance then starts to lag. And that's when we can end up coming into a little bit of that stress can then inhibit our performance. And that's what we need to be looking at when we're talking about exams and also our exam preparation. We're not wanting to be in our optimal performance stress in the lead up to exams, or we could potentially burn out. So another way to look at this, which I love, is this less stress, where it's like, yeah, no, whatever, I'll just stay on the couch till you've got my attention, you're absolutely rocking it, then potentially starting to freak out, and then there's the crash and burn. So as you can see here, you've got my attention is probably where we want to be, coming into exams. We want to be starting to have that alertness, that kind of sense of, I'm starting to feel maybe a little flutter. I'm starting to get a little bit shaky here, but, exams are in a few weeks. I'm now going into my prep and my exam revision. So then I can be, rocking it. And I think that, this is a really lovely, easy way to kind of keep a bit of a self-track. And you can actually start to even, do this on a daily basis, even if you wanted to coming into exams, just to monitor where you are in regards to feeling your stress levels and what it's doing with your performance. Stress and anxiety are very similar in that they feel the same. However, and they're both emotional responses. So coming back to our Yerkes-Dodson, you could actually look at that in regards to anxiety as well. However, the main difference is that stress is caused by an external trigger, i.e. a stressor, and in our case for this evening, an exam. It typically can be short-lived, or it can at times be prolonged, our stress. When it comes to exams, it potentially may be a little bit more short-lived for students, where we know that exams are coming up the day of the exam. We would, again, be feeling, quite a lot of, that medium level stress. It may tip over into a little bit more stress, but at the end of the session, we'll talk a little bit about some ways to kind of bring it back so we're rocking it again on the day. Anxiety in comparison is where it's really more characterized by persistent worries, and that they seem to remain there for us and our lived experience of those worries, even if we don't have a stressor there. For some students, they may experience exam anxiety, where it's not even exam period or the day of the exam, but they're actually having some persistent worries. And that can actually be something that can have a negative impact on students' experience. And that is something that, again, we as student counsellors are here, and that might be something that you'd like to maybe talk to somebody around and gain some support and strategies to manage that anxiety if you do find that the exam stress is moving more into an anxiety type presentation. I've just got a definition here just to really formalise exam stress. And it's the internal process, so what we feel inside as we're trying to adjust to events and situations, and in our sense here, exams, especially when we perceive that they're beyond our coping capacity. And I think that word perceive is quite key here, because remember, we want to get you in the driver's seat. And sometimes that sense of perception can be well, we have the capacity to create change in how we're perceiving things. And I hope that that could be something that, you can take from this evening to give you that sense of control if you do feel that exam anxiety or stress is having a negative impact on you, that there is capacity for change. The processes that we feel around stress, they're often described as being, you feel like you're overloaded, you're wound up, you're tense, you're worried, you're freaking out, you're, pulling your hair out. We've all felt that. I know I've felt that. I'm sure we all have that are here tonight. So I think the idea is that it's to validate stress and in some ways to normalize it. Again, with the club in our hand, we're wired to feel stress because it allows us to survive. Unfortunately, in our modern day life, the stresses are just a little bit different, and it's not actually about fighting for our life, but the physical and emotional impact it has on us is still the same, and hence the limitations that excessive stress can have for us. So coming into some maladaptive approaches to exams, here's some ideas. An exam will and I'm just stupid and I shouldn't be here. Others are going to judge me. What's my unit coordinator going to think of me? What's, the students in my cohort going to think of me, my partner, my friends? Oh God, I'm going to fail. I'm going to get kicked out if I, fail my exam. I'm not able to cope. And it really proves that I just shouldn't be at university. So if we say the word exam to you this evening, and if some of those automatic thoughts maybe pop up into your mind, we can challenge those and we can say they might not be the most healthy responses to have. Again, they're normal, natural responses for some. I know I relate to some of these. I'm not sure if you guys do. However, the idea here is that when you're having these types of a maladaptive or an unhealthy approach to the word exam or the idea of an exam, it can start to exacerbate some thought patterns, and we have then traits around perfectionism, imposter syndrome. We then feel like the task is just way too difficult, when in actual fact it may not be, but our perception is that we overestimate the difficulty of the task, the exam. We go into the what if and the if only thinking. And we know from a clinical perspective that these thought patterns and these presentations obviously continue to exacerbate and feed into our levels of stress. And then we feel these things. We tend to shallow breathe, even though we don't probably realize it. And that can lead to some type of muscular chest pain. And then sometimes that can even exacerbate into panic attacks, headaches, muscle tension, teeth grinding, clenching, nausea, shake, sweating. The list goes on there. And I'm not trying to bring these to the front of your mind as a triggering thing, but just again, a way to say, we know that students feel this way. We're all humans. We all do feel this way. And again, we're designed to feel this way so we can survive. However, once again, in modern day, sometimes these can be a burden to us and can then limit our performance. So to change this around, how do we change the maladaptive into the adaptive, and maybe different ways to start thinking about exams or how to approach an exam? So instead of, I'm going to demonstrate that I shouldn't be here, how about it will allow me to demonstrate what I've learned? This exam is going to be, one step for me moving forward in my degree. It's going to allow me to learn and practice and revise, and I'm going to become motivated. I'm going to become more engaged. It's going to allow me to build resilience and coping mechanisms. It's going to allow me the permission to kind of look back and review and kind of say, well, that mightn't have worked for last trimester. How about I change it up and be flexible and look at how I can create change and move forward in a different way. So it's about that sense of learning and development versus looking at our failures. And this is where we go into more of a positive approach and a view of ourselves as a student. Another way to look at this in order to get yourself into the driver's seat of the car and to feel that you're having more agency over your exams is just to think about, what is an exam actually? What does it mean to you? Not what am I told it is by the university. Of course, that obviously is important, but what does it mean to you? What does your degree even mean to you? What does it mean to do well? Because that's going to differ for every individual, every student. What does it mean to do poorly? And therefore, can I reframe what I actually even think of when I say I'm about to sit an exam? And if you just reflect on those things, I just hope that will enable you to feel that you're taking more control over your exams, over your student experience overall, and increase that sense of purpose that you have and bring more meaning into it, instead of it being more like a box ticking exercise, or you're simply doing an exam because you have to. The idea of all of these things and flipping these into the more positive is that we want to move our stress into wellness. And some examples of how to do that, and I don't want to go on too much in this slide, and obviously this is recorded so you can read it at your own pace, but just for an example, I must get a HD. It could be a little bit more of a flexible, adaptive thought around, it's okay to be nervous during my exam. Remember, I'm only human. Or I'm learning from this task no matter what the result. So I'm still going to gain something. It takes the pressure away from feeling like I have to put myself into this box of a particular mark. But what does that actually then mean? So it's about fleshing this out and bringing more meaning to it in order to achieve a sense of ability and ownership versus, and looking at your strengths and what you can bring to this, and that you're also human and that you're going to be nervous, and to make room for that nervous energy, but also to know to harness it in order to work at your optimal level versus I need to get that HD. So moving into the online exam, so obviously that's looking at just exams more in general, but all of that can be translatable into the online exam world, because it's still an assessment that's going to be occurring. But maybe again, a reflective exercise could be to just think of what's your initial reaction to the words online exam, and even just write it down this evening or at another time if you wanted to, and maybe just have a bit of a look at that and just see what the initial reaction is, in order to then come back at a later date and maybe challenge what that reaction is. and to see it. Am I looking at that from a maladaptive point of view, or am I framing it in an adaptive point of view? If it is a little bit of a maladaptive, how can I reframe it? And this is where it really links into what Kylie was presenting earlier on, where there is a lot of gain to be had from online exams. I love the exam team's slogan, where real solutions in real time. And if anything, being a student, an online student at UNE, where I had to drive to the little town hall, the church hall where I lived, and it was freezing cold always, sit in a very kind of clinical atmosphere, still have a person there supervising in that face-to-face, but really knowing that I probably wouldn't have been able to gain a real solution if I needed one at that time. And these are the things that online exams can give. And so it can be argued that online exams can actually help to reduce our exam stress. Kylie touched on these, and I love that I'm able to just, back this up now in regards to, it does give you increased control over the exam environment. I could now stay warm. I can be, as Kylie said, and research has definitely shown this, that where we learn information, if we're assessed in that same environment, our recall is enhanced. We're able to choose our time. We can also request for adjustments if they are required, and they can be from the exam team, and they can be approved, I do believe. And Kylie, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that one later on. That you can practice, so you can increase your exposure. I mean, I couldn't go to the church hall and do my study or pretend or role play that I was going to do my exam. But you can do that now. You can actually, figure out where you're going to be doing your online exam and visit that. Because as we know, if we are fearing something, which again is giving us increased anxiety, stress, if we expose ourselves to that stressor, in a repeated manner and in a safe manner, our exam anxiety and stress is going to decrease, and that will then enhance our ability to attend to our exam on the day. As Kylie said, a support is available in real time, and UNE is there to help resolve any issues, and then you can have that time back in the exam. I have heard a lot of students with those concerns that, they'll lose time and they won't be able to have it made up. But as Kylie said, this is about kind of debunking some of the misinformation that is floating around. Again, Kylie talked of these, and I wanted to also kind of, bring a slide to this as well. Because what we also can argue is that when we have misinformation and the myths that are kind of floating around in regards to online exams, that can also increase our exam stress. So what I would encourage students to do is to actually always do your own fact finding and to make sure it's from a reliable source. And obviously when it comes to our exams, that it would be from UNE. And that can then inform your attitudes and the way you're framing online exams, which in turn can then minimize stress. Kylie's team on their blogs, there is a link there that I think is quite a good article that I encourage you to look at in regards to some of the myths around proctored exams, around privacy, around cheating allegations that artificial intelligence will falsely accuse students of cheating. And it really kind of debunks those and gives the facts of how to respond to those myths. So just moving on to some exam strategies, and I'm not sure how I'm going for time. It's feeling like I'm getting close to the half hour. Just some ideas here. And we have a lot of these type of ideas on our website, on the UNE counselling website page. So just know what you need ahead of time and be assertive around communicating what your needs are to work, to friends, to family. If you need to make some adjustments, ensure that you do that in a timely manner, maybe not the day before the exam, but just plan ahead. Review your time management and be flexible and make change. Give yourself permission to do that, because I know that sometimes we can get a little bit, set in our ways, especially when it comes to study. But if things aren't working for you, or if life, because we know study doesn't happen in a bubble, if life comes in and throws you a curveball, then sometimes we need to be a little bit flexible, and we need to create change in maybe how we're preparing for our exams or how our study approach is. So just always be mindful and be very welcoming to the idea of reviewing your time management, and be flexible with that, and be kind to yourself around it as well. As Kylie mentioned, do the triad exam. And again, exposure is going to minimize our stress. Role play the exam situation, even if it means down to the finite details of, what you're going to wear on the day, just so your pants aren't going to be tight as you're sitting down, that you're going to have good ventilation in your room, that the temperature is going to be just right, that you're well hydrated. All of these things from a psychological perspective can impact our experience on the day, and therefore either increase or decrease our stress. And remember, we're wanting to bring it down. Make sure that you know what the rules are for the exams, that you're informed, and again, from reliable sources from UNE. Be aware that there are some specials, or that there's some considerations that as a student you have a right to be aware of and to access if need be, that there are policies there, and obviously the online exam team have all the information that you need around that. Again, with the physical changes, as you're moving into the exams and on the exam day, make it appealing, and that's going to be different for everyone. Some people love the clutter, some people love the minimal look, some people like it really ordered, some people like it messy. But the word appealing is key, because it's an individual thing, and it's about making the environment match your needs and how you operate, what's going to enhance your performance. Know where you're going to be doing the online exam, as Kylie mentioned, and have planning for that. Attempt to limit distractions, and again, that's about being assertive in your communication. If you've got your little ones around you on the day, well, then maybe grandparents or friends could be doing some childcare, or it could be that you go to a library to do the exam. Again, this is about being flexible, being in control, and that allowing you to feel that you're minimizing your stress levels to get to that optimal stress level on the day. Healthy body and healthy mind. It's all about self-care, diet, sleep, and exercise, downtime. Have some fun during the exam periods, even on the day. Try and maybe, give yourself a good belly laugh if you're feeling that stress rising. It's all about ensuring that you're looking at yourself from a holistic perspective, and diet and sleep and exercise are key. They're the foundations of our well-being, and we know that if we have optimal well-being, then we're going to be optimal performance when it comes to our exams. I tell students I used to always eat steak and run, and I'm not a runner, whenever exams came, because I just felt like I had to fuel my body the best way I possibly could. And then we have our calming techniques. So avoid cramming just before the exam, because that potentially can only heighten, and you're not going to learn new information on the day. Allow for heightened stress, and even allow for some panic, because if we allow for it, we're not going to get into a fight with it. We can just sit with it. We can practice our breathing exercises, some grounding, anchoring, and mindfulness. And if there are things that you're not aware of or that you're familiar with, again, we have plenty of resources online, or that's where you can make a one-on-one appointment with one of the counsellors to go through some of these techniques if you feel that that would be beneficial in your preparation for exams. In the exam, always answer what you know first, because sometimes this will then cue your memory, and then you'll get a good flow-on effect occurring. Contacting us. So there are a number of ways that you can come to us. The best way would be to go to our UNE website first to have a bit of a feel for what we offer. And we are part of the Wellness Centre here at UNE. We have our student advisors, and they're part of the Wellness Centre. So if you're feeling just in general confusion, or that you need some answers in regards to your study, then there's an online booking tool to access that support. The student accessibility and wellbeing, that is another support team, and that is something I would encourage you to look at in regards to if you feel like you need some adjustments, if there is a health condition, or if there are situations around being a carer for somebody, being incarcerated. There's quite a lot of different circumstances where that team can really help you in regards to gaining some adjustments to help with your study, and that can be a book online as well. And then there's us, so the counselling and psychological services. So that's where you can book online for a wellness check appointment, and from that appointment you can be referred through to counselling. If you want a study gym appointment where you're kind of going, hey, I really want to know some of those grounding techniques after tonight, then you can contact our reception and just ask for a study gym appointment where you don't need to have the wellness check appointment. And that study gym appointment can be just 100% focused on tertiary needs, study needs, exam concerns, and you can have that one-on-one support there. Our phone number is there if you wanted to ring direct, if that's your preference, or you could also email us, and on the website there of the Wellness Centre are the various emails for the different teams. So again, I love this slogan, Kylie and your team. I think this is fabulous. So keep calm. I hope that may have just given a little bit of a tip of the iceberg in some various ways in order to try and keep calm and to manage that stress, knowing we want optimal stress, but we don't want to burn out as well. So I hope that didn't go too fast. I was mindful of time, and I hope that that's been helpful. So I know that we've got some chat in there, so I suppose we can just now open things up for a little bit of back and forth.
Belinda, I've been answering while you were speaking.
Lovely, thank you.
But there were some really good comments. I asked people for their insights into why do they sometimes feel more stressful than other sorts of assessment? And for a lot of people, it came down to the timing or the time pressure.
Yes.
And, pure anticipation.
Yeah.
Also being watched.
Yes.
So that as well.
Yeah.
And the high stakes nature of exams sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk to those points.
It's a hard balance. Kylie, do you have the time there as well, just before?
We're 7 minutes past 9.
Okay, all right. Because I'm aware that people may want to leave, and absolutely that's fine if people do. But I'm happy to stick around and chat. I think those points are bringing on like the realistic part of exams as well, and it is that we, from the university perspective, we are needing to assess students, and it comes down to accreditation. It also comes down to the fact that we're wanting to know that, first of all, is the university doing a good job in teaching the material, and also too, that students are able to be learning that material and being assessed on it in order to then embark on careers. And especially, I'm thinking of areas such as nursing, medicine, law, pharmacy, psychology, just to name a few, and again, they are schools where they do have very strict accreditation. So that is the reality of things in regards to why we need to have exams. And I think that, they do come with pressure. Sometimes the way I spin that around a little bit is that the fact that, again, from a positive perspective, at times in our careers or post-study, that we're going to be under pressure in our own work, and we're going to have time constraints. We're going to need to be, demonstrating what we've learned or our abilities and being assessed on them, especially if you're in a profession where you're going to have ongoing assessment for professional development. So I often say to students that while it is unpleasant, and we all know that sometimes it isn't a pleasant experience to have an exam, but if we focus a little more on what we're actually gaining, then that can help to reduce that stress level. And again, remember when we looked back at that definition, it's all about perception. So yeah, I know there's no clear answer to any of that, but I hope that just allows a little bit of thought around how we can always flip this into the more positive and look at it from a different lens in order to reduce the stress that we do feel, and to see it as an opportunity to demonstrate our strengths and what we've actually learnt and what we're achieving and how we're developing.
And Belinda, I can say from a structural kind of organisational perspective that there are active discussions happening across UNE at the moment about assessment and good assessment design versus bad assessment design. High stakes is seen as poor practice, so there is a lot of pressure and changes coming in the assessment policies across the university and assessment frameworks to address things like, you know, from exams team perspective, exams should never be a time trial. It should never be about how fast you type or how fast you write or how fast you read. There should always be enough time for everyone. So we encourage academics to academic unit coordinators to think along those lines and consider those aspects while they're designing their exams.
And I think too, we're looking more into the idea that you know, the individual experience as well, and that's coming to the fore a little bit more, I think, in how we're approaching. You know, I think there's always change, isn't there, within any kind of institution or however you want to word it, but and always trying to improve and better things.
Yeah, but just to reassure people, you know, our little meme up on the screen at the moment, you can ring us even if you're doing your exam at that moment in time. We might get an incident report from Prop2U saying, hey, Marco's on the phone during his exam, and we'll say, yeah, we know he was talking to us. And we routinely, if we know that a student has lost, say, 10 minutes of their exam time, we will add 20. So we'll always add the lost time plus 10, because we know that, you know, you get the big adrenaline rush, it's all a big drama, all the information might fall out of your head. We provide that extra 10 minutes so students can reorient themselves, get back into the zone and start answering questions. We don't believe that, like I said, exams should be time trials. Did anyone have any more questions or comments? Belinda, sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, I'm just kind of scrolling through a little bit. There's been quite a lot of chat going on while I was talking, which is great to see. I just hope that, you know, whenever we do these type of presentations, if people can take away even just one thing, then you know, that's always my hope, that it will be some, you know, that you've gained at least something, or even if you kind of walk away thinking a little bit differently as well, or if you generate questions. I think that there are always good outcomes from attending these type of webinars that we give. Another thing just to also really highlight is the fact that there's always support at hand. As Kylie was saying, you know, there's, you know, contact the teams, the exam teams, they're there. It's the same for us on the side of support with students. There is a lot of support. I've had so many sessions with students where they'll say they're in their last trimester and they'll go, oh, I wish I'd just known about you earlier on, that this support was here. So I hope that, you know, in coming tonight, that's allowed you to have awareness around, you know, what support's on offer. And I know it was a little bit fast in getting through it, but just to know the support is there, and that first direction to, you know, the websites to find out a little bit more. So if you just type in the Wellness Centre in the UNE search bar at the top, then that will take you straight to our webpage.
Thanks everyone for your lovely comments, and please feel free to make contact whenever you feel the need.
Yes, thanks everyone, and thanks Kylie and Connor.
Yeah.
Janine. Thank you everyone. All the best with your study, everybody, and for this trimester and when the exams come around.
All right, we'll end the session there. For anyone wondering, the recording will be uploaded at the probably end of tomorrow afternoon. So if you've missed anything or want to come back and revise some of the content presented, just check back into UNE 101 and you'll find the recording tomorrow afternoon. All right, thank you to all the presenters and to all the students as well for coming along, and have a good afternoon.